So I've been thinking this week about the Fest Pack, of course, and praying. And I love the cultural stuff, and yet I understand the non-godly parts that are mixed with it. But the thing that I've been thinking about, and the Lord really started pressing me with it yesterday. We were up at the cultural center, and we walked, and I prayed the length, and prayed through every building except for the ones I couldn't get in. I just prayed around them. But what I kept thinking about was the hospitality that is taking place in Guam for the other islands. That's huge. There is a code of hospitality that's in the world today. And the blessings that should pour out on Guam because of the hospitality is big. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this time that we have together. Lord, I thank you that you showed me the eye doctor and how they put the lens in front of your eye and then they say 1 or 2, 2 or 3, 3 or 4, until they get your vision completely clear. And then they tell you what your prescription is. And Lord, this is such an unusual message that you gave me. And it's merely to add to the clarity of vision when we study the Word. Your Word says to study to show yourself approved. It doesn't say read to make yourself feel good. It doesn't say do multiple choice to judge others. It says study to show yourself approved. And we want to be able to study with clarity of vision. So Father, I just thank you for this time of 1 or 2. In Jesus' name. Amen. So it was a really unusual teaching. I didn't say preaching, teaching. And the thing about it is, it's bringing in the code of hospitality. And so I'm going to start with in the back. And it's in ancient Greece. Hello. Come on in. So I'm going to start with ancient Greece, because the code of hospitality is the basis of the majority of the Bible. It is the underlying factor. And if you don't know what the code of hospitality is, if you don't understand the fullness of that, you actually do not understand a lot of the scriptures. And I know I've read scriptures, and I think, well, why did they do that? Or what's that even about? Or how come it's like that? That seems kind of cruel. You know, and then when I think that, but then if I go and I do the eyeglass thing of 1 or 2, 3 or 4, and I put on the glasses, the prescription of the code of hospitality, and read the same verses again, it's like, oh, I get it. For instance, all of you have read Lot, about Lot and Abraham there, and you've wondered, he offered his daughters to these people? That doesn't even make sense. You know, we'd open the door and shoot them. We would. You know, call down fire bolts from heaven, something. We're not throwing our daughters out the door. And there's so many examples like this in the Bible. So I want to explain, I've told you guys for months that I would teach on the code of hospitality. And with Guam hosting so many nations right now during Fest Pack, this is the perfect time to teach on this. So it's going to sound like a history lesson for a while. But in ancient Greece, hospitality meant more than giving your guests the best chair or some chips and dip on Saturday night. It's a lot more than that. But that's what we've reduced hospitality to. Okay? They had a whole word for their relationship between guest and host. They made up a word for it because it was so important to them. And it's xenia, which is X-E-N-I-A. And I'm not even sure that's how you pronounce it. But Xenia. So Zeus was in charge. I mean, Zeus was the big dude, right? He was the big guy over the ancient Greece. Right. And so for him, he was in charge of this whole relationship thing. So you know he's going to bring down fire bolts if you don't do it right, whether you're the host or the guest. So they're pretty got some ground rules going in ancient society here. And it's very important to them that they adhere to it. It's the same as we see today with the Buddhists. Or the Hindus, where they have their altars set up at the beginning of their business, and they have their oranges and their incense and all the different things that they do. This is very important to them. I was in a nail shop one time, and they had a Frappuccino coffee was one of their offerings that day. And a little kid came in, a little Holly kid, and picked it up, and they were like, oh my gosh, now it's defiled. And they had to stop what they were doing and go get another one and put it back. And I just find it really interesting that we look at things like this ancient hospitality code and we think that isn't that important. I mean, it's just, so you're hospitable. But we have reduced it. So this is huge. This is really big in ancient society. Guests brought news from stories from around the world. Hosts provided food or shelter or money if they needed it. When you took them in, they were your family. And they could be strangers on the street. Both sides brought gifts. So the guest would bring a gift, and the host would also gift them. Remember Solomon, when the Queen of Sheba came? She brought boatloads of gold and wealth and all of that. And when she brought it to them, to Solomon, he sent her back with more than she brought him. He was the wealthiest man on earth, and the gifts that he gave reflected who he was. Okay? In the ancient days, the guest-friend relationship was powerful and it was binding. Once you allowed someone into your home, you now are bound in your reaction and the way that you treat them. But you are also, as the guest, bound to how you act in the home. So the host had to be wise in who they allowed in, and yet they weren't really allowed to turn anyone away. So there's this balance here, right? So when they allowed someone in, they had to be wise about who they allowed in. And the guest had to adhere to certain rules. So arriving strangers might be dangerous, or they might be harmless. You had to be wise as the host to pay attention. Residents were always wise to be prepared for trouble when someone was in their home, just in case. But they should have been able to relax the majority of the time, because if a person came into your home and stayed, and they were offered hospitality by you, and they did something untoward, so they raped your daughter, or stole something, or were rude, when they were left the home, they were still blessed, everything went with them, but it was made known what they did and that they broke that code, and the minute they're off the property, the code's been broken. They can be attacked, beaten, killed. They have to pay for what they did. They broke a code. This is not just breaking a law and you get a court date. This is a code of ethics, the way that you live. Have I emphasized enough how important this thing was? Did you get it yet? Okay. Because I'll probably go into it even more. So,